On a cold November evening, rain poured down in steady sheets as Daniel, a single father of two, drove home from work. He had just finished a long shift at the hardware store and was heading to grab dinner when he noticed someone sitting alone at the bus stop. It was a young woman, soaking wet, dressed in a worn military uniform. Her duffel bag sat beside her, and her posture told a story of fatigue and heaviness. She wasn't just tired from travel, she looked like she was carrying the weight of something far deeper. Daniel slowed his car and rolled down the window. "Hey, you okay?" he asked, his voice gentle but concerned. She looked up, startled by the kindness, and answered quietly, "Yeah. Just waiting for the next bus home. Been traveling since yesterday." As she spoke, Daniel saw something in her eyes that stirred his heart. Maybe it was the way she reminded him of his late brother, who had once served in the military. Maybe it was the loneliness he recognized so clearly. Something he knew too well since losing his wife. In that moment, Daniel didn't hesitate. He got out of the car, stepped into the rain, and said with quiet determination, "You're not waiting here in this weather. You're coming with me." It wasn't a question. It was an act of instinct, of compassion. One small moment where a stranger became something more, just because someone cared enough to stop. Back at Daniel's small, cozy home, the air was warm with the smell of baked chicken and fresh bread. The soldier, Riley, looked unsure as she stepped inside, clutching her bag tightly. Daniel's two children, Emma and Jake, peeked around the corner, curious about the unfamiliar guest in uniform. "Kids," Daniel said with a soft smile, "this is Miss Riley. She's a real-life soldier." Jake's eyes lit up. He ran to his room and came back with a wrinkled crayon drawing of a flag and a tank. "This is for you," he said proudly. Riley knelt down and accepted the drawing, her eyes welling up with tears she hadn't expected. "Thank you," she whispered. "It's perfect." Dinner was simple but filled with laughter. Emma told Riley about her spelling test, while Jake asked if she had ever ridden in a tank. Riley smiled and shared light-hearted stories, careful to avoid the painful ones. For the first time in weeks, she felt human again, not a uniform, not a burden, just someone welcomed at the table. As Daniel watched the three of them connect, something shifted in him. The house, which had felt too quiet since his wife passed, was now alive with warmth and light. Riley, once a stranger in the rain, was slowly becoming something else, someone who didn't just need help, but who also brought healing with her presence. It wasn't planned, but it already felt right. That night, after the kids had gone to bed, the house grew quiet. Daniel found Riley sitting on the porch, wrapped in a blanket, staring out into the dark, rainy night. Steam rose from the mug of tea in her hands, but her eyes were far away, lost somewhere in memories she hadn't spoken aloud. He joined her in silence, sitting beside her without pressing for words. After a long pause, Riley finally spoke, her voice soft. "I didn't plan to stop. I just didn't know where else to go. I've been moving since I got back. Couldn't face home. Couldn't face the silence." Daniel listened carefully, sensing the weight behind her words. "You lost someone," he said gently, more a statement than a question. She nodded. "My best friend. We came back from patrol, and she didn't." The rain tapped lightly against the porch roof. Daniel stared out with her, his voice low. "I lost my wife. It's been 3 years. Some days are easier, most aren't. But the kids, they keep me going." Riley turned to him. "Why did you stop for me, really?" He looked at her, steady and kind. "Because no one should come home from a war and feel like they're still alone in the fight." In that quiet moment, something invisible but powerful passed between them, not romance, not obligation, but the kind of understanding that only comes from shared pain. Two broken souls, sitting side by side, offering each other a piece of peace. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the kitchen window as the smell of pancakes filled the air. Riley, still in borrowed clothes, stood at the counter flipping breakfast while Emma set the table and Jake danced around with syrup in his hand. It felt normal. Too normal. And that scared her. After breakfast, Riley quietly packed her things. She didn't want to overstay her welcome, despite how kind Daniel and the kids had been. She stood near the door, her duffel slung over her shoulder, trying to find the right words to say goodbye. But before she could speak, Jake ran up and wrapped his arms around her legs. "Don't go," he said. "You're our soldier now." Emma followed, holding out a friendship bracelet she had made. "Please stay just one more day. You make Daddy smile again." Riley looked at Daniel, unsure, but his eyes met hers with a quiet understanding. "No pressure," he said. "But you don't have to run. Not from us." One more day turned into a week. A week turned into a month. Riley fixed the leaky faucet, helped Emma with her school projects, and even built a treehouse with Daniel for Jake. She wasn't a guest anymore. She was family. And in giving her a place to rest, Daniel and the kids received something too, a warmth that had been missing, a new heartbeat in their home. Without planning it, they had all begun to heal together, just by letting someone in. Months later, the house felt different, livelier, warmer, whole. Laughter echoed through the hallway as Riley helped Jake tie his shoelaces, while Emma proudly showed her drawing of their new family to Daniel. On the wall in the living room, between old photos of birthdays and holidays, hung a brand new family picture: Daniel, Emma, Jake, and Riley standing in the backyard, smiling in the golden light of sunset. Riley wore her uniform, but this time, her eyes weren't tired, they were at peace. Neighbors had started to ask questions. Who was the woman with the soldier's stance and a gentle smile? What was she doing in the single dad's home? Daniel simply said, she came for one night and stayed because she belonged. Riley had found more than a place to rest, she had found a reason to stay. She enrolled in night classes, started volunteering at the local school, and slowly, her past no longer felt like a weight she had to carry alone. One evening, as they all sat on the porch watching the sun dip behind the trees, Daniel turned to Riley and said softly, "You saved us more than we saved you." Riley smiled, her eyes glassy but glowing. "No, we saved each other." And just like that, what began with a simple act of kindness on a rainy night had turned into something rare and lasting, a family stitched together by compassion, acceptance, and the quiet, beautiful decision to open a door and say, "You're coming with me."